helped in the creation of this amazing group led by such amazing women. For those of you who are new to NJBIA, we are the nation's largest statewide business association, representing about 1/4 of all New Jersey employees. We offer customer development opportunities, visibility through events, magazine ads, or our podcast and TV shows, and money-saving discounts on stuff you're probably already paying for, like payroll, healthcare, a 401k solution, and 24/7 HR support. I am Kate Conroy, the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, and if you're interested in more info on us, I'll drop the website into the chat along with my contact info. Please feel free to reach out and we can get you whatever you need. And with that, I will now turn it over to the marvelous Rachel Durkin of Paradigm Marketing and Design.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Durkin. I am about to have a visitor. Perfect timing. I am the president of Paradigm Marketing. This is Sophia. Hi. Say hello. Hi. Okay, well, I'm on a phone call right now. It's kind of important. In a minute. In a minute, please. All right. I'm the president of Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a branding and marketing agency that specializes in helping companies, and workflow agency that helps companies who have complex sales shorten their sales cycle and increase the number of meetings they're having. Donna is laughing hysterically at me right now. I'm trying not to.
I'm just saying that at least she's wearing clothes.
She's got pants on.
So that's
she wants
good.
to play Zelda. So in addition to doing all of that, we make sure that our clients are shortening the sales cycle and increasing the number of meetings they're having. We help them be more effective, more efficient, and increase their revenue by building marketing to sales infrastructures. And I'm very excited to be here today. I'm very excited for this presentation. I want to start by thanking our sponsors. Our first one is Crothers Consulting. Laura Crothers started Crothers Consulting to help leaders gain clarity about people, leadership, and culture. 12 years later, the Crothers team of 25 provided a creative and unique way of training rising managers and leaders across the United States and increasing their leadership effectiveness. Leaders and HR teams rely on the Crothers fractional HR leadership to understand the nuances of high growth organizations as they design HR programs and fine-tune practices. I also want to thank Kim Luthi from Synthesis Wealth Management, who is in Morristown, New Jersey. Kim is a strong advocate to her clients, helping them to understand where they are going, and helping them determine if they're on the right track for financial independence. The world, as she says, is always changing. Our family, our career, tax law, products, and planning opportunities are always evolving, especially in this economy. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And as your personal financial CFO, Kim helps clients find clarity in a confusing world. Kim takes clients through a process that helps them to know what the next right step is in providing and to provide them peace of mind for their financial future. I see on the chat that people are talking about how amazing Kim is, and she certainly is. Kim celebrated her 35th year anniversary recently as an advisor. I don't know how she does that when she's only 28 years old. And she always says how grateful she is for all the lives she has gotten to touch in a legal way. Making a difference when clients are worried about retirement, taxes, and caring for their parents and children. Running their business is a driving force behind Kim's why. So please visit Kim at Synthesis Wealth Management's website to get more information, to get to know her, and to schedule a consultation. And lastly, I want to thank Cal Thomas from Sandler Training. All of us here, or at least everybody on my team here, is Sandler trained. I know Donna, you are too. Sandler Training, when I took it years and years ago, helped me increase my closing rate from 40% to 70%. I'm a big believer in the Sandler process. And so is my team. Sandler also provides sales management training. So for those of us who might be good at sales, but not so good at management, there is a great program that Cal can offer. So thank you for our sponsors. We would not be able to do this event without you. And with that, I'm going to throw it back over to Donna.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So hello, everyone. I am Donna Miller, Chief Visionary Officer at C3 Workplace and founder of Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting. My team and I have helped thousands of companies over the last almost 30 years to accelerate their growth. We do that by providing business advisory and support services around operations, biz dev, marketing, and finance. And we are really excited to be here. And in July, so first of all, mark your calendar. We do this the second Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Just put the recurring appointment on your calendar because we always have great content. So as is common, we tend to go in themes. And so today we have a huge crowd and we'll be talking about artificial intelligence. We're all just so jazzed up about artificial intelligence. Next month, July 11th, today you're getting the Paradigm team. Next month, you're going to get the C3 Workplace team, where we are going to talk about growth through automation, integration, and efficiencies. Oh my, if you can up your productivity level just that tiny bit, that is pure profit. And what's your profit margin? 20%? I don't know. That means you'd have to produce 5 times that in revenue to net that in profit. I know I'm big on knowing your numbers, but so next month, July 11th, don't miss it. We will be talking about automation, integration, and efficiencies. And I want to give you a little sneak peek. I just want to say, I'm not going to say who's going to be with us in September, but we have confirmation. Just trust me. Put it on your calendar for the second Tuesday in September. You're going to want to be here, which leads me to the other thing is we take August off because we also believe in work-life balance or harmony or integration, whatever you want to call it. So second Tuesday of the month. Now, before I hand it back to to Rachel and the Paradigm team, a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording, as you probably heard, as poor Kate was doing her introduction. I remembered I had to record this. So we are recording this. We will allow time at the end for Q&A. In the registration, we had a ton of questions. I know you're going to have questions. We're going to allow some time, but here's what I want to say. Please don't use the chat for questions. It gets too unruly. Use the chat to talk amongst yourselves, introduce yourself, do some virtual networking. Any questions you have at any point throughout the presentation, put them in the Q&A section, and I will come back on camera towards the end of the event to facilitate Q&A. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Rachel so she can introduce her team and our discussion today. And Kate and I are going to go off camera. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Donna. So luckily, I'm not the one presenting today because, as you can see, I have a disruptive setting, but we have 2 amazing presenters today from Paradigm. We have Caitlin Wilcoxon, who is our account group supervisor. She oversees our marketing department and works very closely with Lorena on setting up marketing activities that support automation and drive leads into the sales team. And then we've got Lorena Mascara, who is the workflow strategist on our team, who oversees our division for integrating CRM systems and creating workflows and business process automation that drives efficiency for our clients. The 2 of them together make the perfect team. And so they are going to talk today about how they've been leveraging AI, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome, and how to leverage it for your company and your sales and marketing process. So with that, I'm going to turn my camera off and hand it over to these 2 fine ladies.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
Welcome, everyone. So with that, we're going to jump right on in. And yes, this is a very hot topic. So we know we've got a lot to cover. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer as many questions as we possibly can, but we did put our contact information on the chat. So if there's any questions that come up after today's event, please feel free to reach out and we will do our best to hopefully answer them as much as we can. With that, we really want to talk today about powering your business with AI tools, strategies, and insights. Before we get started, a little bit about us. As Rachel said, I am the workflow strategist. So I do everything that has to do with technology and human behavior. We really believe at Paradigm about a marketing to sales enablement atmosphere. So we really want to start with strategy and really backtrack into making it so that we have marketing systems, sales systems, CRMs, technology, all of it working together. You're not familiar with a CRM, fancy acronym for customer relationship management tools, and that's the world that I live in. Caitlin, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thanks, Lorena. I'm Caitlin Wilcoxon. I'm the account group supervisor. I oversee all of our marketing retainer clients and our account team that helps to service those clients. So helping to make sure whatever our clients' business goals are, we have matching marketing initiatives that help them drive that business growth.
Absolutely. Couple of things just so that you guys know, these are all the different offerings that we have here at Paradigm. So it's not like we just do marketing and websites. There is a lot that we actually can help you with. So if you want to know anything more about any of these areas, please feel free to reach out. Today's agenda is going to be very simple. We're going to cover what is artificial intelligence. The acronym, of course, is AI. What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at your marketing process and tools and efficiencies when using AI? And again, not just talking about the tools and strategies and the insights, but we're hopefully going to give you some examples and some how-tos of how you can use some of these different things that are out there. First things first, I'm going to geek out for a little bit. So I know Caitlin has seen this a couple of times because I get very excited about this topic. So we're going to geek out a little bit in talking about what is AI and what does it actually mean to have AI. And of course, my computer has decided to go on our fritz here for a second. Okay, there we go. So AI, first things first, is artificial intelligence. And there are 3 different levels of artificial intelligence. And the reason that I think it's important, again, my computer's deciding to do things all by itself. I apologize. We are just going to talk until this computer decides to wake back up. In essence, AI is really at its simplest form is artificial intelligence, and that is a way of using technology to really do things for you. Now, artificial intelligence combines a couple of different worlds. It combines computer science, robust data sets that you can find out there. It enables problem solving. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at AI. Basically, though, it's a way of taking algorithms behind the scenes to create data outputs that you can actually use to make smart data-driven decisions. Over the years, we've seen a lot of evolution over the use of AI, the description of AI, and how it actually works. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things that we already have today are really considered AI, but they're just not necessarily perceived to be artificial intelligence. It can be anything from taking words to taking images and making them into something that's a little bit more enhanced than what it already is. The reason I wanted to show this chart right here is because there are 3 different stages of AI. Right now in today's world, and really for the last 8 to 10 years or so, we've been living in the artificial narrow intelligence stratosphere, which is really the beginning of AI. This is your Siris, your Alexas, your Cantanas. This is Google Translate. These are all the basic AI tools or AI-enabled tools that we have in today's world. We are not quite into the machine intelligence or machine consciousness era. Stage 2 and stage 3 are slowly an evolutionary thing that's kind of coming down the pipeline. I would say maybe NASA and the military are working more with the second stage, but we are still very far away from that being an everyday functionality. The third stage, which is kind of what we hear about in the Terminator, that's still really far away from. So I do think it's important that we recognize that AI is only as good as what we're teaching it today. So it's still very much human behavior and human knowledge based when we're looking at AI. And I know I kind of geeked out a little bit on that, but that's okay. We're going to come back to that. Realistically, one of the main points we want to have, though, is technology should be leveraged to enhance human behaviors. And we're going to touch on this a lot today because it's extremely important that we recognize that that's the value of AI, is to really just make us better at what we're doing. Now, with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Caitlin because I know we're going to talk a little bit about the marketing process throughout this as well.
Yes, thanks so much, Lorena. Yeah, so as we go through each of these different AI tools, I want to start each section that we go through talking a little bit about the 4 different pillars of the marketing process that we always like to prioritize. And the first one is your target audience. So everyone understands, I think, and knows at this point that when you're going out to market, you need to know who are the people that are interested in your product or services and who's going to take action and buy. But a lot of times when you're looking at a target audience, people immediately go to the things that are kind of obvious. The geographic locations of your audience. Are you focused in New Jersey? Do you service the US? Do you service the whole world? They look at age, income, gender. How do all of those things play into your target audience? However, there's so much more that you should know about your target audience, and there's more powerful information that you should know about your target audience. And what is really important is to know the audience emotion. And we always like to explain it in 3 levels: surface level pain, financial pain, and emotional pain. And as much as I always feel terrible talking about pain and how you need to talk about pain when it comes to marketing, but it really is powerful if you can get to that emotional level of pain. And I like to use the example of an estate attorney. If you're an estate attorney, people come to you and they say, I need a will. That's that surface level pain. They have a need. That's what their need is. Then you go a level deeper. What's the financial pain? Well, if I don't have a will in place, what ends up happening to my money when I pass away? And that, digs a little deeper. People start to get nervous. What will happen to my money? What's the impact on my family or the people that I care about? If you can get to that emotional level pain, though, which is the next level down, that's where you're really hooking people with marketing. And so if you can say, hey, are you concerned that your child wouldn't be able to pay for college if you had passed away? If you can get to that level when it comes to marketing, you are going to convert people at a much higher rate. So I know you're probably wondering, why is she babbling about audience emotion when we're talking about AI? Well, although there's these awesome AI tools that can do tons of customer segmentation and help you to divide people out into certain geographic segments, demographic segments, psychographic, and behavioral segments, you also need a human to understand another human and to be able to get more of that qualitative data versus just the quantitative data. So
absolutely. And just to interrupt you for a second, I think this is one of the biggest points to make, is that if you don't know that early step, and we're going to go over this in every single slide that we're talking about, if you don't understand the why you're going to be using a particular AI tool, the efficiency of it is going to greatly diminish. So while there are so many powerful tools out there like Google Analytics, like Segment or Action IQ, there are tons of different tools that allow you to get the data that you want, but you have to start with that end in mind as to what it is that you're looking to get, so that you can backtrack into it and see which tools are actually going to help you get the data that you want. So to Caitlin's point, target audience and knowing their pain is going to allow you to, if you know those two things first, you can then come into customer segmentation and start looking at tools that'll fit the right price point for what you're looking to get.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about when it comes to customer segmentation. And I like to talk about these in case study sort of examples so that you can get an idea of how you can leverage some of these AI tools with customer segmentation. And I think another thing too is, to Lorena's point earlier, some of these AI tools have actually been around for quite some time. We just weren't talking about it as much as we are now. So things like Facebook and Google advertising, certain elements and functionality of it uses AI in order to build their target audience. So one of the things that we do when it comes to advertising is doing things like retargeting campaigns or lookalike campaigns. And all of that is based on data that you already have about your audience. And again, this goes to, if you are looking to segment your customer base, you need to have that data in order to segment it. And we always like to say, if you don't have that information, there are specific ways that you want to be running your Facebook and Google advertising so you can gather information and research what are those emotional pain points that speak to your potential clients and which ones will cause them to convert at a higher rate. Another perfect example, Google Analytics. There is tons of data in Google Analytics. And now we're even upgrading from the Universal Analytics into GA4. So there's even additional data that we're going to be able to get our hands on. But one of the perfect examples I like to talk about when it comes to Google Analytics, I see all the time with our clients that they'll say, this is our best service. If they have a series of services that they're able to offer, this is our best service. This is what gets people to convert. That is not always what people are initially searching for when they land on your website. So we see a lot of times there's this customer journey that happens and they come in interested in looking for one piece of content, but as they go through and discover the types of services you can offer, it's actually something else that says, hey, this is the firm for me that's going to be able to give me what I need. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're segmenting your data. You want to make sure you have a very, very clear understanding of who your customer is before you go into these advertising channels, and you want to make sure you're analyzing it as it's going to. Your customers may change over time.
And when it comes to the tools to consider, we've only listed a few, and we're only going to list the more popular ones that we've worked with or have some experience. So there's a plethora of them out there. So when you're doing a little bit of Google searching, you might find more choices. The reason that we named these right here is really because these are the most common ones. But you have to remember that with any tool, and again, we'll repeat this several times, is that there's one for every kind of price or budget that you're looking for. So when you're looking at this, again, it's knowing what the why that you are trying to get to, you'll be able to create a price point that'll get you to where you want to do based on the tools available. For example, Google Analytics, as we know, is switching over to GA4, but if you're looking at something that's paid and you don't have data in your system that's actually got some of the data that you need to know where the geographic locations are, where the demographics are, some of the tools that you have on here will actually allow you to do some data mining and finding that information if you've only got bits and pieces of data in your database. So it really depends on how much information you have available versus how much you're looking to get as to which ones we would recommend. And again, it would be really a comparison of where you are today, how much you're looking to spend, and what information you want to get. I will tell you that Action IQ is probably one of my favorite ones, only because it does create a full customer experience. Besides Google Analytics, which is a given, Action IQ will give you the full experience analysis of everything that you might have in your database for your clients. With that, we're going to piggyback on additional information for customer segmentation. And I know that Caitlin has already mentioned some of this, but when she showed me this map, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, so this is something from Google Analytics. I pulled this map right from a Google Analytics platform. And again, it looks awesome. It shows you visually the darker blue areas are where most of the people that are visiting your website are coming from. And then it goes into lighter and lighter shades. The areas that are gray, you're not having any visitors to your website. But back to Lorena's very early point, technology should be used to enhance human behavior. I can throw this map in front of you and okay, it's cool, but what are we going to do with it? So that's where you need humans in here and taking a look at the data and making sure, are you reaching the right audience? Sometimes you may look at this and go, oh my goodness, well, we actually really want to target more customers in Mexico. That's not where most of our people are coming in. We need to change our marketing strategy to put more effort into advertising in that area. So again, taking a look at the data, and it's awesome. It gives you visuals, it gives you lots of insights, but you need that human to take a look and say, are you ranking for the right sort of terms? Are you using the right channels? Are you reaching the right audience? You also want to make sure, and we're going to touch on this a lot, you want to make sure that you're using the 9 to 13 touch process. We're going to talk about that way more later too, but it's one thing to just take a look at Google Analytics data. You also want to make sure if you're using email marketing platforms or social media platforms, that you're using all of that data as well to make sure you're hitting your audience in multiple different channels. I talked about this, and we're going to say this 100 more times. Collect as much data as you possibly can. If you're not collecting that data, you can't segment your customer list. How not to use this?
And I think we share this in every slide because, again, we want to make sure that we give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, but really tools to leverage it as much as you can, because we don't want to just give you tools and then have you go out and spend a ton of time and money on them. We want to make sure that you're looking at all the different scenarios.
Yeah. So I know I talked about this. You don't want to just rely on that geographic and the demographic data. So that's one of the things that's very, very easy for a lot of these AI tools to collect. But collecting that information from the human engagements that you have, from the conversations that you're having with your clients and customers, write those sorts of things down, write the emotional pains down, because that's really powerful data. You also want to make sure and this goes across the board, any of the tools that you lock into, how does it integrate with your other systems? And Lorena could talk about that in a whole other webinar too. So there's tons to talk about there, but you just want to make sure if you're already using HubSpot or Zoho or Salesforce, how do these AI tools link into those different systems? I'm going to say this also 100 times. Do not set it and forget it when it comes to AI. You need to be checking, you need to be testing to make sure the different things that you are implementing from AI, that they're actually working for you and they're giving you the outcomes that you want. And don't take visuals at face value.
Yeah, not to mention that you're going to evolve in the asks that you want. As you start to gather more data, you're going to want the system to give you more information.
Yeah, and don't just take that information at face value either. Dig into it, find out the reason why. So next pillar, we're going to talk about messaging. And I love to, when I talk about messaging, I love to use this one case study. We had a client that they had been on CNBC, they had been on CNN, you named it, major news channels, they're a financial firm, and they were not getting the types of clients that they wanted. And they're like, I don't get it. We are out there and we are speaking on these major news networks. Why are we not converting the people that come in and say that they saw us on these channels? And we did a messaging strategy. And what we ended up uncovering as part of this process was that the people that they were talking to on these news channels were much more educated, and they weren't the type of people that needed a financial advisor. They were the DIYers. They wanted to go out and do their own financial planning. So really, it wasn't the right target audience. So once we found that out and we recreated their messaging to speak to their target audience that says, I don't want to do it myself. I want a financial advisor to tell me exactly how I should be investing my money. Then we changed the channels, we changed the message to make sure we were hitting that target audience. And that's one thing that, as we're talking about the AI tools, that contextual information to understand where your target audience is as you're speaking to them is super important. And AI tools can't pick up on that data. They only have the data that you're providing to them.
And that's going to really bring it to the copywriting, because I know that was what was being discussed in even the chats right now, right? Chat GPT is probably the biggest AI tool that everyone's talking about. And it's most likely linked to this copywriting section, which really is all about personalizing your marketing and sales content based on the prompts that you're giving. But going back, and again, we're going to kind of retro back a couple of steps. If you don't know the target message, the target audience, it's kind of hard to ask the right questions.
Yes. And so I'm actually going to give a little bit of a shout out here. I was speaking to her earlier, to our content strategist. She has been playing around with ChatGPT a ton and giving us all of the good, bad, and ugly when it comes to using these systems. And one of my absolute favorite stories that she told me was she was working on a white paper and she was like, let me use ChatGPT and see if it can give me some statistics. And she went in and it asked for statistics. It was so detailed. It told her the source. It gave her the statistic. And then she said, great, can you cite the source? Can you give me a link to where you found this? And she clicked on it and it said, page not found. And she went and she tried to copy the statistic out and couldn't find it anywhere. And so that's one thing that you really, really want to be careful of, is how you're using these different copywriting tools like ChatGPT in order to get the information you want. Now, there are a ton of different ways to use it effectively too. So using it for things like promo codes or subject lines or titles to a webinar. If you have the content and you just need a little bit of creative inspiration.
Yeah, the finessing of the word sentence structure. Yeah.
Yeah, that is an awesome way to use this tool. What I would be very, very careful of, though, is taking things verbatim. So we have seen also, if you ask it to write a blog, it'll write a blog for you, but there's potential for inconsistencies when it comes to grammatical pieces. There is tons of, again, what I was talking about, messaging issues. AI, you can inform it as much as you can, but it doesn't totally know your audience the way you do. It doesn't know what your sales pitch is at the end. You always want to have a call to action at the end of every single one of your blogs. It won't be able to refine that as much as you'll be able to, and it won't be able to give you as much of those statistics, because ChatGPT the data is only updated through 2021 too. So it's definitely something to be careful of.
And I know that somebody just posted this on the chat, but it's a pretty big deal. There is an attorney two attorneys actually that are getting, in pretty big trouble right now because they use something that's called AI hallucinations, which is literally where AI comes up with some data that it believes it read somewhere or it got it somewhere, but it's never really there and it couldn't be proven. And they didn't use any citation checks, and now they're getting into trouble because they didn't check it. So while we love the idea of saving time and using this, I think to Caitlin's point, it's really important to note that you don't want to use it to write a paper. You don't want to use it to write an entire blog. You really want to use it to hone in on specific sentences, specific topics that that you have enough knowledge on that you can actually read through it and verify some of its credibility and or click on those citations to double check your data. If you're able to do that, you can leverage the power of this. And now what I did is I listed a few other tools in addition to ChatGPT. Jasper AI, AnyWord, and ScaleNet are all great tools. But again, it really depends on what you're trying to do. We have seen copywriting AI, and that's a pretty big header and big grouping of AI, where it's used from everything from I need an artificial intelligence virtual assistant to take down my notes and to pinpoint certain words within my meeting. That's one type of copywriting. We've seen it where, we need it to create an entire small, 2-sentence description for a picture or an image that we're using. Well, then that's a different kind of AI. So you want to make sure that, again, you're starting with the end in mind as to what exactly is it that you define as copywriting, so that then you can backtrack and find the tool that works for you. There is also a very huge differential between the pricing of some of these tools. Some of them are free, but they will give you very basic information, and then they ask you to pay. Even ChatGPT has that. You want to pay to the plus level so you can get additional information. Again, you can go down a rabbit hole spending a lot of money and doing a lot of things, but if you simplify what you're looking for, you might be able to get away with either a free tool or something that's a little bit more fine-tuned. There's also things like Anyword, which I actually love, which is a second favorite to mine than ChatGPT, because it's almost like having an online thesaurus for like an actual thought. So it's actually a really great way of kind of, for those that are not creative like me, who are very technical and very linear, to soften your words sometimes a little bit better than typing an angry email. You want to finesse it a little bit. You can use one of those tools. You also want to talk about some of the things that we didn't cover is some of the things that you don't want to use it for. You do not want to use it verbatim. I know, Caitlin, as you guys are switching to Google Analytics 4, there's talk of penalties.
Yeah, so that's something right now Google can pick up on whether your content is written by AI or not. And you can even take content, and this is a great checker too. You can take content that was created by AI or not and put it in there and say, was this created by an AI system? And it will tell you. So that's definitely something that you want to be aware of, because anytime there's duplicate content out there on the internet, I like to call them the little Google fairies out there, will go and detract from your overall search rankings if they find things like duplicate content. So it's definitely something you want to be careful of. Plagiarism, using things verbatim. Also, like I had mentioned, it's not going to write in your brand voice. You can, as these systems are getting smarter, like Lorena was talking about earlier, you can start to train them to speak in certain voices. So as that starts to roll out, that will definitely be something to keep an eye on. And there will be even less editing potentially for those sorts of things. But another thing too is, at the end of the day, again, going back to how you know your target audience better than robots do, you don't want to use AI to drive your thought leadership strategy. So you know what topics are potentially the hottest, what are the most common things you're hearing from your customers and your clients. So you want to make sure that knowledge you're using to drive your overall thought leadership strategy, not the robots.
And the last thing we'll say on ChatGPTs and the likes for copywriting is you want to make sure you're careful with your data. While it is really great for creating charts for you based on data that you copy and paste into it, you are feeding that into its mind, basically, because it is going to take that information and use it in the future. So you want to be careful with confidential data. You don't necessarily want to be using that in order to generate any ChatGPT content, so that you don't get into any issues down the road. I will say that for creating content, if you're creating a PowerPoint or topic, I mean, we even played with it for this presentation today. If you want to create an outline for certain things, like a case study that you maybe want to write about, or a blog that you want to write about, and you want to create that outline, ChatGPT is fantastic for that, because it really will give you a very clear outline that you can follow, and then you can tweak as you're starting to do your actual research for it. With that, let's go into graphics, which I know is probably the second biggest thing that we get asked for all the time. How can we use AI for creating graphics? And in reality, the simplest format that we can say is that it's really used to personalize marketing and or sales campaigns based on images that either you're going to upload or you're going to tell it to find from somewhere out in the universe.
Yes. So graphics, I have to say, this is the one that, I mean, you look at the images right here that are AI created, they're gorgeous. And there are some absolutely amazing things that these graphics AI tools can do. But I also find that there's quite a few of them out there that you should definitely avoid. And we're going to talk about that too. But they're also, I find in some ways, and this is across all AI tools, they're a little underdeveloped in certain ways. I'm going to talk about all of that. And I have to say, you're probably all wondering why the 5th bullet point on here says creating an arm. I'm going to show you that too.
Yeah, we're going to
So
show
know
you
what
that.
I'm
We're going to
talking
show you
about.
that in just a second. Before we jump over to that slide, though, I do want to mention, to Caitlin's point, as far as having the tools that are a little underdeveloped, I think the one that we're both, and probably most of our team is pretty excited about, is Firefly.
Yeah.
That one's going to be amazing. And I think you were talking a little bit about the permissions or something with the Firefly, right?
Yes. So luckily with Firefly in particular, it is owned by Adobe, and Adobe has its own suite of stock photos that it can leverage and pull from. Some of these other systems don't have that, that stock database of their own to pull from. So they're pulling from other images. And again, going back to, I know someone was mentioning some legal related information when it comes to AI. The same thing is happening on the graphics side. So places like Getty Images and iStock are getting really mad at some of these AI tools because they're going and scrapping pictures from these tools and using it in these new graphics that they're creating. So that, again, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over time with these ones that don't have their own stock library and whether those AI tools survive or not.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest thing with the plagiarism. And I know that there's a lot of legalities as to what is going to be allowed to be patented or not, or, you know, taken as a, not a patent, as a trademark is what I meant to say. So this is what we wanted to show you. If you look at this quick video right here, you can actually see how it's actually creating. We asked it to expand.
Yeah, so we asked it, we had this smaller image, we asked it to expand to actually put a person typing the computer versus just being able to see the hands on the computer. And something like this would take tens of hours for a graphic designer to go and pull those pieces together and Photoshop something together to create a more full picture. So this is something that our graphics team is very, very excited about, because something that we would have had to tell a client before, hey, we want to use an image like this for your marketing, but we need to fill it out. And like, for example, I know people's headshots and putting, you know, a body on their headshot. That was something that before you had to go in and Photoshop all these different pieces, where now there's these new AI tools coming down the pike that it's going to save us tens and tens of hours. But what you don't want to use it for is things like a graphic like this. I have seen some pretty interesting, and it doesn't matter how good you are with prompting some of these graphics AI tools, putting together something like this that has text and layered images, and again, has a message that you need to communicate out to your audience. I would definitely avoid using an AI tool for something like this. It spits back some very, very questionable photos that don't have text, that don't properly show what you're trying to show. The other thing I would absolutely be very careful of is when it comes to logo designs and these tools. I have seen a ton of logo tools, AI tools out there, where you put in your company name and you go and you select a couple different styles that you want, and it spits something back to you. What I saw spit back to me had some severe ADA issues. And when I talk about ADA, we're talking about things like being able to have someone who's colorblind see your logo. So they were going and putting colors that did not work together at all up against each other. And someone who was colorblind, they wouldn't be able to actually see your logo. So things like that, at this point, I would definitely avoid using the graphics tools for.
Absolutely. Now we get to one of our favorite slides, because when we start to talk about the 9 to 13 touches, I think this is super important for you guys to listen to as we build on the next set of AI tools that we're going to talk about.
Yes. So if you have been to a Paradigm webinar before, you've probably heard this, but it takes 9 to 13 touches to reach your audience. You need to use a mix of different communication outlets to get them to the point where they're ready to convert. And one of the things that I want you to all be careful of too, as you're looking at some of these tools, some of the tools will help you refine and figure out, okay, this is your target audience. What is the best channel and what's the best time to get in front of them? And that's awesome. That gives you the channel and the time that they think will help you convert them the best. But if that's just one touch, you're still not going to convert them. You have to stay in front of them 9 to 13 times.
Yeah, and when we start to talk about the different interactions, we're probably going to start to talk a little bit more about the chat bots. And I know chat bots is, again, another question we get asked a lot about. For those of you that are not familiar with what a lovely chat bot is, it's basically artificial intelligence that you can use to provide instant gratification, instant customer service on your website. So if you go to any website right now, most of the time there'll be a little pop-up that comes up and says, how can we help you? Welcome to today's website. Or, what kind of questions do you have for us? It's basically allowing you to have like a virtual assistant on your website that's accessible to anyone whenever they get on there. There are good, bad, and ugly things about it. And what we did is we put a couple of tools on there for you to look at. And just like anything else, you really need to be mindful of the costs and what you're looking to get out of it, right? Because one of the things that this does is it does allow you to actually have automatic answers available for your team to be able to, deliver out to your audience. However, as we've talked about with Caitlin, nothing's ever easy, right, Caitlin?
No.
Nothing is ever easy. So there's a lot of work that has to get done behind the scenes for you to have a really good functional chatbot on your website.
Yeah, and so a couple of different things there. One is, to your point, Lorena, different chatbots have different requirements in terms of what they want you to load in order for it to work as well as it possibly can. So some make you put a frequently asked questions page in the back end of your website so it can pull information from there. Some of it will just go through your website and it'll automatically pull the answers that they think will be relevant. So it also comes down to how much control do you want to give these AI tools in answering your customers' questions? Because again, this is a touch, this is an impression that you are putting out there to the world. Anyone that uses that chatbot, it's a visual of what your brand is. So you want to be aware of what it's spinning out there and what it's showing about your business, how it's impacting your reputation. The other thing I'll add too, depending on how much functionality and I'll say how heavy and intense these chatbots are, how much information it needs, it can really impact your site speed. So that's, again, something you really want to be careful of. We actually had a client, they had a chatbot on their site. It was working great. And then as they built it up and built it up and built it up, it impacted their site speed. And so again, we had to go through and we actually had to look at some different tools. And then it ended up, we went back to the original chatbot once that AI tool had improved the load it took on the website.
And there's also a difference when you're looking at these. And again, the different examples that we gave you are to show you something from a very simple to a very complex. Chatbot is very simple. It's going to go off the Q&A that you've pre-formulated into the system. You need to be mindful of a couple of things. Everyone knows how awful it is to call an 800 number and not be able to get a human being on the phone and you start yelling at the phone going, human, agent, representative, somebody, just talk to me. We don't want to do that with the website. So you want to make sure that you get the out so that they can actually reach out to you directly in a very easy format so that they don't have to go through a lot of layers. So that's very, very important. You also want to look at what you're actually looking to get. In some of these scenarios, it's a very simple chatbot where it's Q&A based and it's just texting like scenarios. In others, it's really looking at a unified customer experience or customer journey. So it'll actually guide them through your website. So if you were looking to get a pair of shoes, which I love shoe shopping, which is why I'm going to use that example. So if you're looking to get a pair of shoes and you're looking for a particular size heel in a particular color, and you're using a very advanced customer journey type chatbot, it'll actually pull the specific products that you're looking for and actually show them to you so that you can go right into the shopping cart. So again, you really want to think with the why and start with what is it that I want to do and why do I want to do that? So you can then backtrack into what kind of tools should I be looking and what am I comfortable in spending and how much time and effort am I willing to put into this to save time and or resources on another side. So just be mindful of that correlation between the two. With that said, I will say that cognitive scale and Pipestream, if you really have an unlimited budget and can do whatever it is you want to do with this, those two are fantastic with what it'll give you. It literally is going to build an entire enterprise and look at all your data and create an entire cognitive computing solution for your team inside the world of chatbots. And I can go into that in like so many different ways, but I will just put it clearly in that there's a lot that you can do within the chatbot world.
So two more things I just wanted to touch on too. I know I warned quite a bit about chatbots. However, they can be a huge time saver. So if you're consistently getting the same questions over and over and over again, chatbots are an awesome AI tool to consider. We were actually just talking to a client the other day and they're like, I constantly get questions about when our hours are or how to learn more about certain services that we can offer. And that can all be automated through chatbots, and it can save your team tons of time from having to answer those same questions over and over again. But to that point, you also want to make sure you're mapping the user flow too. So after they talk to a chatbot, how do you make sure that that chatbot is not the last touch that they get? That's not the only experience they have with your business. How do you get them to a point to make sure you're sending them an email following up with the chat, that you're giving them a phone call? So making sure you're collecting user information in case you get disconnected or if you want to follow up with the person is very, very important.
That's right. Okay, moving on so that we don't run out of time. We're going to talk a little bit about tracking your activities. Now, I know that if you've seen any other of our webinars, you know that we are very much into the 9 to 13 touches. You got to make sure you're actually following your behaviors and reaching your audience in the ways that, you know, you can hopefully reach the most constructive relationship with them. With that said, we don't have 24 hours a day to be sitting at our computers and working. So we are very much into creating efficiencies between technology and human behavior. That's what this really shows us. If you're looking at this kind of wheel of behaviors, every single little yellow star means an interaction where you can have a system do something automatically for you. The reason that I bring this up is that as we go into the next level of AI tools, we can leverage automation. And so if you want to come back to the July event with Donna's team, that's very, very important as well. Because when you're talking about efficiency and automation, it's really critical to know where can I take myself out of the equation and put something automated so that the system can help me do something faster and better. So what we've done is we've taken a couple of approaches in this example to show you that if somebody came in from an event like today, they were attending a webinar, we might follow up with somebody automatically saying, thank you for attending today's webinar with an automatic drip email campaign. That might generate 2 or 3 different emails and different actions from those emails so that if they open it, something else happens. The reason that I bring this up is because it's super important that when you're tracking activities, you're tracking again the why. So if we look at 2 different scenarios, would you rather be talking to 10 people 10 times a day for about 100 meetings to close 10 deals, or would you rather be talking to 50 people 2 times to get 100 meetings, the same number of meetings, but you get to close 50 deals? If obviously you're like us and you want to get into the 50 deal scenario, because that's going to make all of our lives that much easier, we want to make sure we're using AI to the best of our advantage. And in order to do that, leverage lead scoring. Lead scoring AI is absolutely fantastic. Again, it is a completely another topic that I can totally geek out on because it really allows the marketing to sales enablement to take its full strength and leverage the data that you have in your CRM, which hopefully you have one, to really help you see who you should be nurturing to get to that next level of relationship, who you should be sending immediately to sales, and who might not be somebody that is going to close and purchase from you. In reality, what lead scoring does is it takes artificial intelligence, and that could be something as very simple as algorithms that are pre-built into your database, or it'll actually allow the system to be created by the own user to put in different values for different fields so that you can actually score it yourself. What it basically does is it analyzes those behaviors, where they came in from, what kind of actions, if they opened an email, if they clicked on that email, if they replied to that email, if they attended the events, to give them different points. Then it ranks them based on point value. This allows your sales team to really be able to reach out to those leads that have the highest intent and be able to build relationships with those first and continue to nurture those that are lower on the scale list. There is so many tools that come with lead scoring. And again, there is very complex to very simple, and it really depends on the kind of tool that you have. If you already have a CRM, a customer relationship management system, something like a Salesforce or a Zoho, they usually come in with a small level of artificial intelligence already pre-built. For Zoho, it's Zia. For Salesforce, it's Einstein. There are second level step up artificial intelligence packages that you can buy with those 2. And then there's additional add-ons that you can even purchase from there. It really depends on What kind of information am I looking to get? Again, as with everything else, how much work do I want to put into it? And how much do I want to spend to get it? With Zia, for example, it comes with Zoho and it'll enrich data. It'll allow me to pull data to see if what I have in my database matches what's out there on the World Wide Web. Fantastic. It's one way of doing lead scoring to make sure that my profile is actually complete. With Einstein, it'll actually allow it to do its own analytics of my system. It'll compare all the leads that came in from that same place to see how many of those actually converted. So again, depending on the type of system and the type of intelligence that you want to get out of it, you might be able to customize it yourself or just look at the numbers. It's super, super important though with lead scoring that you look at systems to see whether they will actually let you modify the algorithm or whether you're going to be stuck with whatever they have. Or if you have a combination of two worlds, because I will tell you that we've had some instances where some AI that cannot be modified and the algorithms are doing their thing, it's sometimes there's not enough data in your system to really have that algorithm be working efficiently for you. In other cases where we've been able to do a blend, we get to have the best of both worlds because we might not have a lot of data, but we have enough to get started. So lead scoring is something that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. It's been around for a while. I only think it's going to generate a lot of additional research into this because it'll actually allow you to track your sales reps' behavior. With that, it is not a leave it and be done because you have to keep modifying it. You have to keep changing it. You have to make sure that you're looking at the algorithms to see what do I need to tweak, modify, or change from here so that you can continue to expand how you're looking at your sales leads. With that said, I know that Caitlin and I probably spend most of our time collaborating in this one particular area for lead scoring. You have to make sure that your team is working together with the marketing and sales team. And the reason we want to collaborate with both of those worlds is because it'll actually allow the lead scoring and future leads to come from the places you actually want them to. It kind of ties all back into the 9 to 13 touches and your target audience. We can kind of group it all together to help you prioritize your leads and gather as much data as you can. I know Caitlin spoke about this a little bit before, but there's a huge difference between quantifiable data and qualitative data. Lead scoring relies a lot on the quantifiable data. So you want to make sure that the system is set up in such a way that the quantifiable analytics of it can be clearly set up into the system. Qualitative data is really where your team feels this might be a good lead. You want to make sure that that can kind of be evaluated. But I know that Caitlin and I will say this is not the way to create your outbound strategy.
Yeah. And you want to make sure too, as you're using lead scoring on both the marketing and the sales side, defining your outreach strategy to make sure that you're getting the right values for each of those different events. Like someone that attends an event should have a different value than someone that just opened an email. So keeping things like that in mind and making sure you're getting the right messaging in front of these different groups based on where they are in the funnel is really important.
Yep. And as we wrap it up, the basic 4 things that we want to remind you, these are just examples. There are so many different tools. It really depends on the budget, the platform features, the integration capabilities, and what you're looking to get out of it. The more advanced the reports and the more advanced data output probably means the more work that the team's going to have to do to set it up and get it running. AI is not a one and done. You must be actively engaged, watching for behaviors, configuring and altering all of those data points that you have in the system. And we've said it before, technology really should be leveraged to enhance human behaviors, not to replace them. I think with that, we are good to go with Q&As. I will say that if you have any questions when it comes to system automation or anything like that, please make sure you check out our 6 Steps to Business Automation. It talks a little bit about how to integrate and put everything together. Or you can schedule a session to talk more and geek out with me on anything that you want to geek out on. So back to you, Donna.
Lorena, you ladies are great. I don't know, my head's like about to explode. I'm equally excited and horrified. So we have a few questions in the Q&A section, and we only have a couple of minutes. So I'm going to try and tie them together to some extent. And I'm basing it on Cal Thomas's question. Cal said, are the bots trainable to ask pain identifying questions? So my overall question is, we've talked about copywriting, we've talked about graphics, we've talked about chat bots, and we've talked about lead scoring. For those of us who are starting in this process, I have a two-part question. One, where would you start? And B, the bigger question is, and to Cal's point, are these chatbots and sites, and you go on ChatGPT. I can't particularly train ChatGPT, but are there services? So how trainable is this? Cal specifically wants to know, bless his heart, can we train a bot to ask pain identifying questions? So how trainable is this? Okay.
So you actually can, and I think, Caitlin would probably have more experience on the actual setup because they've worked on the website stuff. But she mentioned the fact that you can do workflows within these chatbots, so that there's a decision tree. If they said this, ask them that question. If they said that, ask them this question, right, Caitlin? Like I think you've worked with someone that'll do that.
Yeah, you can set up tons of if and thens, but again, it's which platform you end up deciding on. The other thing, to your point, to your question to Donna, about how quickly can you get started, how quickly can you train these things, the trainee, so in this case the AI tool, is only as good as the trainer. So I always like to say, if you are going to use an AI tool, a designer trying to use a copywriting AI tool is not going to be as powerful as a copywriter training and prompting a copywriting AI tool. So matching those things up, they know that how to prompt it to get the most powerful responses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And when it comes to setting up those other systems, as far as like lead scoring and things of those natures, it's really important to know the questions that you want to have the outputs to. I want to know what events are the most successful that I go to and that I attend to, which get me the most networking leads. Well, it has to be set up that way in the system so that if you have those questions already in there, for example, I believe in 3-tier networking. First level is networking. Second level might be the place that you network. The third level might be the actual organization or committee that you're in within that networking group. If you don't have the 3-tier set up, the system really can't tell you where you're getting the best leads from. So it's really a combination of the setup and the tool.
Amazing. So just, I want to say, we had a few people ask, will you ladies be providing your slides in the follow-up email? Okay. So yes, part of what you will get as a follow-up, because you saw those 9 to 12 or 9 to 11 or 7 to 14 touch
9
points,
to 13 touches.
which Rachel's been talking about forever. You will get a follow-up email to this, and the slides will be in it. So you will have that. So for a small business owner, where you may have small teams or one-person departments, where do you suggest they start with ChatGPT or with AI? Where's the starting point?
I'm biased to the ChatGPTs of the world. Caitlin, I'm not sure if you would agree or disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think ChatGPT, again, with all these, you want to take each of them with a grain of salt. But it's probably the most robust out of all of them. And they have the paid version too, which has some additional functionality. So yeah, I would start with ChatGPT.
And it really allows you to start to save some time, right? Because you could start to reword titles or subjects and things.
And I have to say, I have used it. I've used ChatGPT a lot. I use it for naming webinars. I use it for what are the top 5 points around this topic? Why are the top 5 reasons someone would outsource their bookkeeping? I kind of know it, but it's really nice to hear what ChatGPT has to say and how they should do it.
Yeah,
and the other thing I will say that I did is I did it's Secta, SECTA, for $50. You upload 15 to 25 pictures, and I have 300 headshots. And it's funny because as it goes through, they start looking less and less like me. Like, man, I'm on her arms.
It starts giving you a little bit of buff.
But I will say, for $50, I got 5 or 6 really usable headshots. So that's what we've done internally. So ladies, we are at the top of the hour. If any of you have additional questions, you can reach out to the Paradigm team, and we will do our best to answer your questions. Ladies, great presentation, a lot to digest. Can't wait to get the PowerPoint and try some of these new tools. And I have to honestly say, I did not know about lead scoring, and that to me is pretty darn exciting. So
Lead
that's
scoring
great.
is my favorite. And I mean, that's a whole thing that I
Yeah.
could talk about for hours at a time, because
Yeah.
to Laura Osborne's point, you know, most people don't think about relayering and really coding your system that way. And I think it's super, super important.
Awesome. Well done, ladies. Everyone, have a great month. July 11th, we will kind of continue this conversation, efficiencies, automations, and integration. So have a great month, everyone. Thank you all, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.